This is The Spot, a BYU-Idaho radio production, where we talk about what you're talking about at BYU-Idaho. Today's hosts are I, Christian Nelson.
Me, Chandler Guadagnin.
And me, Brianna Leal.
The views and opinions of this podcast are not that of BYU-Idaho Radio or the university, and are solely the opinions of the hosts. This week, we're talking about winter weather survival or cold weather survival.
Oh, yes.
Very needed, especially since, and it's like ironic because like a storm hit right when school was about to start. Like, why? Like,
Right.
Yup.
Mother Nature hates us, man. I swear.
I know it was a pretty mild winter, kind of leading up to Christmas. Like, I was keeping tabs on my friends who were still here, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, the streets are still clear, no snow." And then the day after I got back, right before the semester starts, just snow.
Dunk.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the day that I was getting back on January 4th, that's the exact day that it started happening. So
Yeah.
it was rough while I was traveling.
Yeah, traveling in the snow is no joke. I've had to travel through, I want to call them blizzards. I don't know if they are officially blizzards, but it felt like it in the moment, right? But I had to drive through two really scary just snowstorms. And one was from Nevada, where I'm from, up to back here after a Christmas break. And it was just the snow is crazy. Like it was up to where I was sitting in my car, right? Kind of at the base of my seat. And everyone's just kind of going through these little lanes that have been made by like the trucks and other people. And eventually got through, made it up here all the way from through Utah and everything. And then,
Wow.
But it was really scary. And nothing really prepares you for that unless you have a vehicle that's ready for it. And so we'll talk a little bit about that today. But have you guys had any instances where you've had to deal with the snow?
I flew in through Ogden, Utah, so I take Allegiant because, especially for my situation, I travel with my cat. So I have to take Allegiant because that's the most cheapest option that I have available to me, unfortunately. But the first time I was originally supposed to travel back home to Arizona, I was going to take the Idaho Falls airport, but then my flight got canceled. And so I don't have a car, so I've been taking the Salt Lake Express. So I had no way back to my apartment other than just picking up a Lyft. So I decided the smartest option, at least for me, for those of you who are traveling with animals possibly, especially taking Allegiant, I recommend going to Provo or to Salt Lake City, to those specific airports. And it's a more larger chance that you would be able to take that flight without it getting canceled. So that's what I recommend specifically when you are traveling in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just the fact that, like, when I was getting ready to come back here, I was afraid that my flight was going to get canceled. Like, I flew with Alaska and it wasn't canceled. But so I was able to get here and get here safely. But I will tell you, in the past, when I've been here, this is like my third winter, hopefully my last winter if I graduate when I'm supposed to graduate. So we'll see. But we traveled, me and my brother and my sister, one winter, we traveled to go, I think we were traveling from Utah to here for something. And the snow, it was snowing hard. And I don't know if it was, like you said, you didn't know if it was blizzard conditions, but it was windy enough where the snow was blowing on the road, and it just looked like it was cloudy and it was foggy, and we couldn't see anything that was happening except for the snow that was blowing in front of us. And I think it's so true that, like, when it's snowing like that, there's no such thing as lanes. There's no such thing as parking spots. Like, the lines don't exist. Like, you have to make your own lines.
Yeah, you have to guesstimate.
So it's just like a whole thing about just being cautious and being safe.
Yeah. Dude, the scariest thing, so last spring, so around May, and I'm going out to Wisconsin to do a summer job, and I drove the whole way from Idaho. But the scariest leg of the trip was going up into Colorado because everything was fine. It was just a little rainy the whole day, but like it was beautiful. Like Colorado's a really fun place to drive through. You just get to see all these mountains. Like you really feel like you're in some sort of like Wild West mining town area because that's what it is. And I'm driving through and there's this one pass and I guess you're going uphill into a mountain before you hit Denver when you're headed east. And it just started snowing like crazy. And there was ice everywhere. And most people had to be, like we were all going about maybe 15 miles an hour, which extended the trip to Denver, which was where I was going to stop for the night, by like an hour or two. And it was terrifying. I was convinced that I was probably going to get hurt or have to be stopped and get off to the side of the road or even die. Like it was terrifying. And the wind was just blowing like crazy and just everything was coming down and visibility was awful. I couldn't see anything, not the lane markers, nothing. And all I was going off of was there was a bigger truck with better brights ahead of me, like a big semi truck. And I was just following the red lights of their back tail lights the whole time. So that's what I was doing. And I was just hoping, I hope that they take the exit that goes to Denver. But it was terrifying. And I started to wonder, like, man, what do I do if I'm stuck in my car on the side of the road for a night where it's blizzard conditions? So I did some research about how you can kind of prepare for the weather. And a lot of it comes down to what you're wearing at the time. And there are other things that you can bring in your car that also help protect against weather. But let's start with like what you wear. So I know that, Brianne, you did some research about good winter weather clothing. So what are some recommendations you have for our audience?
Oh, yes, I did. So definitely a checklist. So I call this the winter survival wear shopping list. So if you don't have these already, I recommend that you might want to buy that this winter if you're still here. But I recommend a winter jacket. So this could be a trench coat. Puffer jackets are more effective during especially times like these where it's supposed to be really cold today. I recommend thick, stable, very reliable pants that work, And then warm scarf. I would definitely recommend that, especially within the negative degree weathers that are very severe. So I know last winter we reached negative 39 with a negative 49 degree wind chill. So I recommend.
That, yeah.
Oh yeah,
that
me too.
Awful.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I recommend definitely if you don't want frostbite and if you want to feel your face, I would recommend wearing a scarf. So especially winter gloves. I also recommend, so I had no idea this existed until I was shopping to come here last winter. But it's called thermal underwear. So it sounds weird, but trust me, it's a lifesaver. It saves lives. I'm telling you this right now. But thermal underwear. So you can buy a thermal shirt that goes along with the thermal pants. So this goes under your regular normal wear. And I mean, this could also, especially if you're endowed, there's also thermal
garments.
Yeah, thermal garments. So that are available to you. So I highly recommend those type of thermal wear. So also some popular brands that I looked at and I researched about. So one of the popular ones is North Face. So this one's a popular brand. You said this one is more geared towards.
I think it's not necessarily that it's geared towards just fashion.
Yeah.
But they've become a very like fashionable item to wear. Kind of like Arc'teryx is it's a very kind of, it's almost statusy to wear it, but it's because it's very good quality stuff.
Okay.
So
yeah, so it's quality, and it's also it's a little bit would you say it's a little recreational?
Totally. I think the North Face and Arc'teryx and Patagonia, all those brands, they're very serious about their outdoor gear.
Okay.
You'll find those brands in serious outdoor outlets like REI.
Okay.
things like that.
I'd
So
even add Columbia to that mix a little bit too.
Oh,
Columbia
yeah.
is a great affordable option. Yeah, they're
Columbia.
fantastic. So
Yeah. And then another good one is Helly Hansen. So it's designed to be the most advanced synthetic for high intensity activities. So
which one is that again?
this one's called Helly Hansen.
Helly Hansen.
Yeah. So that one's another well-known brand. And then there's Patagonia. Did I say that right?
Patagonia.
Yeah, Patagonia. There we go. It's known for its premier outdoor brands for ski and snow. So,
Yeah, those are all some really great brands to look at for cold winter weather gear.
yeah,
And-
would
and-
you say this is like within the medium range of affordable?
Yeah, I would say, especially if we include that Columbia
Yeah.
that Chandler mentioned, I think those are very good brands that can be affordable. There's kind of when it comes to a lot of so I'm into like backpacking and doing a lot of outdoor camping and things like that. So I'm a bit nerdy about that stuff, and it's kind of a buy once, cry once mentality, right? So, and it depends on your uses, right? So like if you're only ever needing something for a commute situation and there's no way that you're going to be outside for more than, a couple hours if something happens, like, you can adjust your budget accordingly, right? You don't want to sink thousands of dollars into gear that you're not going to need,
Oh,
right?
yes.
But totally, like I think those are some great brands where if you were to put your money into them, you'd be very satisfied.
Yeah. I don't know. Kicking it back to the thermal stuff. This isn't a plug, but 32 Heat I found to be a really good brand for thermals.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they're very affordable and very
Yeah.
effective.
If we're talking about thermals, I do have a story on thermals though. So I served my mission in Nebraska and really the Midwest. So I covered like 3 states and they were all in the Midwest. And so shout out to Kansas and South Dakota and Nebraska. But it was extremely like stupid cold and the humidity was insane. And the rule under my mission was you could go proselyting until it was -30 outside. Go knocking doors. And so the closest it got down to was -20 while I was on my mission. And so we were out knocking doors and surprise, surprise, no one answered. They were
Yeah.
like, you're crazy. I don't want to answer. I don't blame you almost. But you might freeze your face off, but you get life-saving, eternity-saving gospel truths. Anyways, but I made the stupid decision one night that I wasn't going to wear thermals.
Oh, no.
And I lasted maybe like 10 minutes. And then we had
Yeah.
to like turn back and go because I was literally could not, you talk about can't feel your face. I couldn't feel my legs. Like I couldn't. So wear thermals because they literally are like a lifesaver, make a difference kind of deal.
Totally. I mean, there is no like cold is cold and hot is hot, right? You can kind of acclimate yourself to certain weather types, but like there really is just a limit to how much a human person can take before it's like your skin will be damaged, right? Like you will get hurt by these environmental factors. And so it's very important, like you said, to just be prepared. And one of my favorites, so another term for thermals can also be like base layers. And that's more of like a broad term in like backpacking or outdoorsman stuff because like base layers can also be like there's warm weather base layers where you kind of wear something that looks like a thermal, but it breathes really well. So, but for cold weather base layers or thermals, one of my favorite brands is Smart Wool. And I like wool. I get wool socks and I get wool thermals when I can. And the reason is because wool, let's say you're doing a lot of outdoor activities. Wool is naturally antimicrobial, so it helps kill bad smells that your body naturally produces, or like from your armpits and other areas. So kind of keeps you smelling a little bit better, which is nice, and it helps manage that kind of grossness of your sweat and what happens there. The other thing is that wool, unlike a lot of other materials, when it gets wet, will still retain up to, I believe it's 80% I don't know if that's I forget where I got that number from, but that's just I think I've heard that somewhere. But it will retain up to 80% of its heat retaining properties. So even when you're wet, it'll still keep you nice and warm. So, and that's something that I've experienced before because I served in Tacoma, Washington, and it never got like super cold in Tacoma on my mission, but it did get cold and it would rain a lot. And the rain makes you feel a lot colder than it actually is outside because now you're just wet. Even with rain jackets, like stuff seeps in. Like when you're out there in it for 12 hours, like I don't think there's a single rain jacket. Like eventually you're going to sweat. Sometimes you can't manage the sweat well, but so you're going to get cold. You're going to get wet. And so wool is a great way to kind of help combat that so that if it does happen, you stay nice and warm. So
Yeah, so especially me being from Arizona, when I first came here, I came here in the winter, right? So it was a good 75 degrees when I left. It was a nice 75 degrees. And then when I came here, I came in the negatives. So I've experienced, especially where I live, in the summertime, it gets to 120. So 75 degrees is the high for the winter times. And I've experienced triple digit weather and I have experienced negative digit weather. So
yeah, same here. Growing up in Nevada, like it gets warm.
yeah.
It gets so hot there.
Luckily, I've had somebody help me to shop for these items.
Mm-hmm.
So where I got my puffer jacket, I like wearing puffer jackets because they are they're very warm to me. I've never had a trench coat. I'm not sure how effective they are in the cold weather, but I like how insulated puffer jackets are, and I got mine from Burlington. I don't remember how much it was, but the rest of my winter items, so the winter gloves, the scarf, I've got everything from, I want to say it was, let me look real quick. So it was Big Five Sporting Goods. So I recommend for the more smaller necessities. So winter gloves, winter boots, winter socks. I recommend going to a Sporting Goods.
Yeah. My
store.
Personal favorite store is so I like REI, especially for a lot of those. It can be sometimes those things can get a little bit pricey.
Oh yeah.
It's just the way things are, especially right now. But yeah, Big Five is definitely a good way to get a hold of a lot of those brands that you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, and it's more affordable, which is why I liked it at the time. But I definitely recommend doing some research, figuring out what store works for you, especially where these are being sold at. So
yeah. You guys ready for this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart.
Oh, yeah.
I swear to you, I bought a puffer jacket, I guess is what you call it, for $20. And
Wow.
it's lasted me like 3 years. And that thing keeps me so freaking warm, I can't even tell you. Like, I don't know. It helps that I wear long sleeve shirts underneath it and stuff. Like, you have to do your stuff underneath too. But by the time I get places, I'm kind of like sweating, like no joke. So I don't know. Take it for what you will, but for college students on a budget, Walmart.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
not even joking.
I agree. I think because I am more into the hobbyist side of like outdoors stuff, I don't know.
Like if you were going to go hiking and be more intense, like probably a $20 jacket from Walmart isn't going to cut it. But
no, but for the purpose, it's totally.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you're just
it
walking on
rocks.
campus
For
or around town.
affordability.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like it depends on what your activity is, right? Like if you're someone who wants to go hiking in the snow like me because you, I don't know, want to, because it's not always fun.
Because you're crazy.
I guess because I'm crazy. But like if you want to do that, then some of my favorite brands for something like that is I said earlier, Smartwool's great. If you're looking for socks, Darn Tough, but also Costco. Costco has great affordable. Like if you have a Costco membership, there's like wool socks that you can get there for really cheap too. Those are fantastic as well. And then my favorite like outerwear clothing personally is Beyond clothing. They're kind of a smaller, like you have to I think go to their website. I don't know if they're outletted anywhere right now, but
Yeah.
they're a really good brand if you want some something that'll keep you warm and be lightweight if you're moving around a lot. So.
You're wearing that right now.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
wearing I'm wearing the one of their jackets right now. So they're great. Also, what matters a lot too when you're trying to stay warm is how you layer and what you layer with. So I did some research into layering, and this is stuff I also have been preparing for because like backpacking trips and hunting trips with friends and family and stuff like that. And so there are like I think it's like 4 or 5 things that you like kind of want to layer on top of each other. And it starts with thermals, which we mentioned earlier. And then after thermals, you kind of just have like your pants, normal pants, and like a normal shirt of your choice. So it could be like a flannel, or it could just be just something more comfortable on top of the thermal. And then you have an insulating layer, which would be like a puffer jacket or a fleece or a hoodie or like what I'm wearing right now, right? And then after that, you would have a like added warmth layer if it's needed. And then your biggest layers, because you kind of want to be able to fit all your warm weather stuff that keeps you warm underneath it, is either like a windbreaker or like a rain jacket, depending on what you're encountering, right? If you're going to get wet, rain jacket. But if it's just windy outside, probably a big windbreaker that you can kind of put over everything. And that's what helps you stay warm. And if anyone's more interested about that, I found that information out from actually it's like a tactical like military channel, but they do a great job. And it's called Spiritus Systems on YouTube, and they go over like how to layer in cold weather. And it was probably the most in-depth I've seen, more so than like a lot of other outdoors brands have gone into it. So that's a great tool for that info as well.
Warm up like the military.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
warm up like a
If you
professional,
want
right?
to be warm, just look at the military.
Yeah, look at their layering systems, right? They're
yeah,
they're
they
the
know
ones
what
who
they're
live
doing.
in it. So yeah.
But
Go ahead, Chandler.
Yeah, I was just saying, but if you don't layer correctly, for some reason, like, can we talk about frostbite for a second? Because that's a real threat. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
it's it's not good. It's not fun. It's not good. Like, I was talking to someone from the National Weather Service recently, actually. His name's Jack Messick. He's a meteorologist with them, and he was talking about frostbite. And he said one of the things that goes first is your nose and your ears, like the tips of your nose and the tips of your ears. And because we don't always live in front of a mirror, we don't see that in ourselves. And so he said one of the biggest things is to have people around you, or that if you're walking down the street and you see someone starting to turn purple, or like their nose is starting to turn glossy or waxy, and they're getting those signs of frostbite, that you tell them, that you let them know, because that could literally be the difference between them having to lose part of their ear or whatever it is, to getting gangrene really, or getting home, getting safe, getting warm. So he said one of the things is just keep an eye out, not only for yourself but for others, and do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually got frostburn one time. I had to walk to the radio station. I had to walk here last year during winter, and we had it was the wind chill we were talking about that got down to -50.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to go at the peak of it when it was dark outside still in the morning and pretty windy. And I did a pretty good job of layering because of my hobbies and stuff. And so I had my ears and everything covered on my face. My eyelashes did freeze though, which was crazy. Like I had little bits of, frozen droplets on my eyelashes when I came in to the studio. But everything was good. Like everything was doing well. I had my face nice and covered, and everything was covered, but my thermals split away from my socks because the thermals I had just weren't long enough. And part of my calf was exposed, and just my pants, like my jeans, were protecting it. And I got like a sunburn. It felt like a sunburn. It looked like a sunburn on this little part of my calf. And it was like a frostburn. It was like a light frost. And that was like a 15-minute walk. So it doesn't take that long in those conditions to like get hurt, right? So You got to be so careful.
Yeah, me being from Arizona, this is the first time I've ever heard about anything like this.
Mhm.
Even last winter where it was like -39 with the -49-degree wind chill, that was the first time like I've ever experienced anything like that. But this is the first time that I've heard about frostburn. I've only heard about sunburn, especially like because it's very sunny where I live. There's not really the need to dress very warmly, but more the need to hydrate yourself, especially within the heat.
Mm.
So, especially one thing that I learned personally since I've been here and I researched this. So, I always wondered why it was so, like, when it was clear skies out, why it was so much colder than why, like, when it's cloudy outside. So, from what I've learned from the University of Illinois explains, heat emitted from the Earth's surface freely escapes into space, resulting in colder temperatures. So essentially, when it's cloudy outside, this is the first time that I've ever heard anything like this. You would think when it's clear outside, the sun would warm you up, right? But no, it actually does the exact opposite when it's clear outside because all the heat is not trapped within the clouds. So all the heat that is being like created within the environment around us when it is cloudy is not being trapped within like the clouds and the land that we stand on. So when it's clearer outside, all of that heat escapes into space. So
It's like nature's insulation layer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a thermal jacket.
Yeah, it's their little fleece jacket, right?
Yeah.
Made out of water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, it's crazy to think how these conditions arrive and how it's like it's every year, It doesn't feel like things change much, but I guess
Yeah.
the way the earth spins.
I guess one thing I would like to cover before I forget about it is like we talked about being in your car.
Yeah.
And I think any time that you're in this condition, whether you're in your car or whether you're going backpacking or whatever, you need to have like a kit, like a safety kit with
Absolutely.
you at all times. What, Christian, I guess you're the survivalist here a little bit, but what would, I guess, I'll open up to everybody. What would you put in your survivalist pack? A kit to keep you warm and safe if you're just out there in the middle of nowhere or need something.
Yeah. For a lot of people who have been raised in the Church of Jesus Christ, I think there has always been an emphasis on like emergency preparedness, right?
Oh yeah.
So you think about like what would you put in a 72-hour kit? Like what would you want in this kind of situation and throw that in your car? I think for staying warm, aside from the clothing that you would want to wear and bring, there's also having one of the coolest things I saw on YouTube while we were looking up stuff for this is getting like a tarp or one of those survival blankets, those like reflective blankets.
Oh yeah.
And what you can do, let's say it's really cold. What you can do if you're in a safe environment, right, or if you have room for it in your car, I mean, maybe don't do this in your car, but it's not the worst idea, especially if it's too cold outside. Just be very careful. But you get a small candle. So just something very easy, packable candle, like those really cheap little candles.
Oh yeah.
And a lighter. And what you do is you can put that at the base by your feet and wrap that blanket around you with that candle underneath, and that will help heat you up.
Huh.
And then what you do is you keep that on. Like let's say you want to go to sleep, you blow the candle out, you keep that on, and that will help you retain a lot of body heat throughout the night if you have to do that. And also always have like some water and food with you too. I think that's an easy one. Just like water, food, and maybe some like medicine, just simple medicine for like headache or whatever, just in case. So
Yeah, honestly, that's very interesting because maybe I should start preparing myself for something like that. I personally don't have any information that would be helpful for you, but I think definitely prepare for something like that. Look into preparing for something like that. That is something that I never looked into, that I never thought about, that I highly recommend you think about which is what I'm going to start preparing for, because I thought about all the situations that would happen in the heat, but never in the cold. So
Yeah. I think living here for a few years has definitely like made me want to be, because Idaho can be way like, because in Nevada, it's you have to fight the heat, of course, but you're usually just in either like Reno or Las Vegas, and they're pretty big cities. There are some smaller towns here and there, but like it's not like Idaho, because Idaho is dotted with a bunch of kind of like small big towns, kind of like Rexburg or Idaho Falls, where it's like they're actually pretty decent sized towns, but they are far apart from each other and way too far to walk, especially in bad climate. Whereas in Vegas, it's like if your car breaks down in the middle of, somewhere in Vegas, like you can probably walk somewhere, get help, you'll be fine.
There's a casino right around the corner. I don't know.
Yeah, there's
yeah.
there's a lot of infrastructure. Whereas living in Idaho, I've realized there's a lot of, you kind of need to be self-taught or like self-prepared for certain things so that you can survive getting to those safe points, right? Or getting the help you need, or getting cell phone service back. So yeah, I mean, that's something I think about quite often, actually. And so, yeah, I mean, just the same thing could be said about your apartment too. Because if the power drops, it's basically like being in your car in the middle. Now you're with other people, so there's that added benefit. But yeah,
If I could add something to what you said about survival kits real quick,
go for it.
it would be, this is like, I don't know how many people think about this, but a shovel, like a collapsible shovel, to dig your way out of situations or like whatever you need to be. Because if you're keeping, like, it's tough because you want to stay warm, but if you keep your car on, right, and the snow piles up, you're gonna die from carbon monoxide.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna back up your tailpipe and your exhaust pipe, and you're gonna die from carbon monoxide poisoning. And so, one of the things that you need to be aware of is keep a shovel.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know if you're in your apartment or like on a ground level, and this doesn't happen in Rexburg, but like if you were to get snowed in, right, at least you have a shovel to dig. I don't know, but
yeah, no, a shovel is you could also so when I was in Scouts, it's kind of the end of it. It was like the beginning of high school, so I was like about to become an Eagle, but I went on one of my last camping trips and we did a snow one. And what was really funny was there's this one guy who brought a shovel with him, and he didn't bring a tent. He was like, "No, I don't want to use a tent." He had a tarp and his sleeping bag, and then he had like a waterproof. It's called a bivy bag, which you put over your sleeping bag that waterproofs your like whole whole system so that you can like kind of sleep anywhere. And so what he did was he took the shovel and he just dug out like a little snow cavity, like I don't know how to describe it, but a little like snow hammock, and then put his tarp over that, right, and anchored it down with some things. And the heat reflection from the snow with his sleeping bag actually kept him warmer than anyone who was in a tent that night, because everyone else who was in a tent was like just cold, right?
Wow.
But he was in this little like nest that he had made of snow, and the snow actually like had melted around him and turned to ice, and he had this little like almost like igloo, like it was like a half igloo, like an open top igloo thing like, going on.
No joke, snow caves and things like that can be some of the warmest places you can be.
Yeah.
In snowy conditions.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know. But I always remember that, and I'm like, yeah, so a shovel is definitely a very valuable tool to have. Another thing is I always try to carry a little bit of like a multi-tool and like paracord too, as well as a tarp or something, or like a thermal blanket in your kit, like in your trunk or whatever. The other thing too is wood, like little wood 2x4 blocks, because you can tie that around on your tire, and that gives your wheels more traction to get out of a bad like snowy, muddy situation. So
interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I thought about chains and stuff, but you think about those are more portable. So that's cool.
Exactly. So you can kind of just tie it around your wheel well and your tire, and you have this block of wood, and it gives you enough friction to kind of overcome the ice and the snow. So, but yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. So that's how I prep the car. And then your home is pretty similar, right? Like have an emergency blanket, have some food and water.
Oh, yeah.
Try to find ways to, it's hard. Like, how do you keep it from not freezing? I don't know. Like, sometimes you got to maybe figure out if you need a butane, some sort of little portable stove or whatever that isn't electric. So, but yeah, that's all I have for that. So do you guys have anything else to add?
I mean, one thing, not for that. I mean, I think we covered it pretty dang well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But something that doesn't happen very often here in Rexburg, but happens other places, and something I'm sure you have never heard of or very unfamiliar with, Brianna, is
yes, most likely
freezing rain.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard about? I mean,
it happened.
Yeah.
It actually happened
What?
here.
Yeah, it did.
Back in 2017 when I first got here.
That sounds
It happened my first night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it
no.
literally, for those who are unfamiliar, like we got this all the time in the Midwest, but like it gets cold enough where the rain comes down. It doesn't get cold enough to turn it to snow, but as soon as it hits the pavement or whatever, it turns to ice. So it's like a whole skating rink wherever you are. And I have a funny story about that too, because I was going to visit somebody on my mission in a park. I think it was an old folks home, and I have some of the worst balance on the planet Earth just because of my situation. But I could not stand up in this parking lot. Like we were like parked in this parking lot, and I was like, well, like I can't skate. I don't do like so. We tried several times. I couldn't get up. It was the iciest freaking thing I've ever seen. So what happened was I had my puffer jacket on. I had everything on. And I laid on my back, and my companion just dragged me across the parking lot.
Oh, my.
Because I couldn't stand up. And so we had to find this patch where I could stand up. And I got up, and all this, it was okay. But, like, I can only imagine, like, seeing it from the outside, this, like, these two random guys just pulling each other across the parking lot because
Wow.
we couldn't stand up because it was freezing rain. And, that's, like, crazy stuff, but it's for real. And you just got to make sure that you know what you're doing.
Wow, you don't see that in warmer climates.
No.
Mm-mm.
No. So.
Not at all.
Wow.
kinda nuts.
Yeah, that happened to me the first night I was ever in Rexburg, and my roommate was like, "Oh, you want to let's go get Domino's?" Because like, oh, it's your first night, let's go get pizza. Everyone get pizza, and we go out. Like it was perfectly fine when I arrived and unpacked all my stuff, and then it rained a little, and then we went outside, and the moment we stepped out onto the parking lot, we just like we were just slipping and sliding around. So it was really funny, but we still ended up getting that pizza.
Did you?
We were determined. So
You know what? You might as well bring a sled with you, because
yeah, might as well, right?
sled
Or
your
ice
way
skates.
down.
Ice skates, yeah.
Ice skates, yeah,
For real?
especially.
Oh my goodness.
You might
Yeah.
as well just get that ice skating in now.
Absolutely.
Get those one wheels. Bring skates, guys. Bring skates.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, I think we covered that all pretty well. I mean, to sum it up, it's layer the quality, what you get in clothing, right? And that's built for those kind of environments.
Yeah, prepare.
Yeah,
especially,
be prepared and prepare your car and your home.
and
right?
educate.
Yeah.
Especially
There's
educate
so many good
yourself.
resources out there, like on YouTube and stuff. And, I know some people, it can be a little bit like, oh, that's like doomsday prepper. But like a lot of this is every day for a lot of people. Like it could happen, right? Like it could just be like, there's a blizzard. I'm stuck in my car. I got to figure it out.
I don't think it classifies. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying it's not like, just because it feels like you're prepared for the end of the world, it's like, no, you're probably just prepared for a weekend.
Oh yeah.
Prepare for
Like,
Tuesday.
yeah, it's not crazy. Just it's just about being safe, and that's what this is. So
I don't classify it as doomsday because it's doomsday if it doesn't happen, but this happens. Like it's for real.
it's like a personal doomsday.
Yeah,
It's like you
exactly.
want to be prepared for the personal problems.
Everything
that
that could go wrong
into.
will go wrong, and I'm ready for it. you know?
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there you go. So, you've been listening to The Spot, a production of BYU-Idaho Radio. Today's hosts are me, Christian Nelson.
Chandler Guadagnin.
And Brianna Leal.
The views and opinions of this podcast are not that of BYU-Idaho Radio or the university and are solely the opinions of the hosts. This episode was edited by Christian Nelson. Producers were the hosts, with supervision by Brandon Isle. Our theme music is Finding Happiness by DJ Quads and The Perpetual Ticking of Time by Artificial Music. To listen to more episodes of The Spot, like and follow us on social media or visit the website byu.edu/radio and click podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to BYU-Idaho Radio on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also leave a review of the show and leave a comment on what we should talk about next.